Hello, my name is James Moffett, the host of Liberty and Gun Rights Podcast. The following videos are sponsored by the JBS local chapter of Dorchester and Berkeley counties in South Carolina. JBS hosted attorney Michael Rose, a 1969 graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, retired South Carolina state senator and president of the South Carolina chapter of the U.S. AFA Association of Graduates. His presentation was labeled Habits of Honor, Faith, and Patriotism. There are 8 short videos in this series which will be labeled Video 1 through 8.
Admirals, generals, Medal of Honor winner, some civilians, distinguished chief master sergeant of the Air Force, and so forth. And we have 10 directors, 38 board of advisor members. We got in 28 states leaders with people that work with STARS, over 4,000 on our free mailing list. And we work with a West Point graduate organization called the MacArthur Society and a Naval Academy graduate organization called the AFA. So, and we work with about a dozen organizations, all fighting in this COVID vaccine. And we've written all these letters, over 60 FOIA requests, press releases, newsletters, comments from over 2,000 people about how DEI is hurting them, podcasts. I've given this presentation, this in 4 states, and we're trying to get more people to give it, to educate. I've been with 2 delegations to Congress, one in 2024, one in 2025. This Nancy Lohmeyer, the author of this book, who's now Undersecretary of the Air Force, I can't tell you what a big deal it is. He testified before the House Subcommittee on National Security, the Border and Foreign Affairs in January 24. And what he testified about is the risk of progressive ideologies in the U.S. military, which is what I'm talking about. We, at STARS, created position papers on about a dozen topics and put it into this booklet that we gave to the members of Congress. We met with the Freedom Caucus, for example, at dinner, and met personally with U.S. senators and congressmen who know who STARS is and solicit input from them. Now, I'm in charge of the legal department. As I said, we have about 200 cases. I probably represented 100 people just on the COVID vaccine alone before it was rescinded. But get this, Congress created a board of visitors for West Point and Naval Academy and Air Force Academy. So the Biden administration just suspended them. So I and another lawyer, a week later, we filed a lawsuit. The executive branch can't shut down or suspend a congressionally created oversight board. We got separation of power. And Justice Department lawyers apparently agreed because about a week after we filed the lawsuit, they had suspended. But then Biden fired all the Trump appointees. And Jen Psaki, who is the press secretary, said the reason Biden fired the appointees of Trump is because Trump's appointees didn't represent our values. In other words, they wanted leftist values. And they suspended the board's visits because they didn't want oversight, because they wanted to inculcate this leftist ideology without it being known. And that's another reason they don't answer our Freedom of Information Act requests. And we've had to sue twice successfully, and now we've got a 3rd lawsuit that should have gone to the problem. So I filed a lawsuit in Charleston here challenging the legality of the COVID vaccine. Senator Lindsey Graham invited me. We both had a press conference in Charleston about the illegality of the COVID vaccine and my lawsuit in front of the Coast Guard station down here in Charleston. We have a black Academy graduate, retired brigadier general on our board of advisors. He testified in the federal court against using race for admissions to the Naval Academy. We've been involved in lawsuits at all 3 academies regarding whether or not race can be used as a factor. Now remember, the Supreme Court's already ruled it can't be used in civilian colleges. So Harvard couldn't do it, University of North Carolina couldn't do it, it's against the law. They can't just have more qualified people not accepted in order to let people that are a certain color be accepted. But that's never been decided about the academies by a court. But what we've done, but lawsuits were filed, and STARS help oppose using race to select who's going to the academy. So here's some other things STARS has done, and I'll just say that we have exceeded our expectations or even dreams in terms of one thing leading to another. I had two mottos or rules for STARS, and one is engage, engage, engage. So every day there's something new that we take a swing at. And secondly, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today, because one thing leads to another. And we've seen that happen over and over and over. We've had 9 town halls on Zoom, and we've done speeches all over the country. We've had a big rally in Arizona. We're going to have another one in Texas. These websites tell about STARS accomplishment. Now, kind of getting toward the end of this, let me say that the older generation, like my generation, we fought in Vietnam, Korea, Cold War, China, Cuba, Berlin Wall, and over 95,000 Americans died fighting Marxism in Korea, Vietnam alone. And if you look in the middle here of that slide up there, the death toll of communism, so 65 million died in China, 20 million in Soviet Union, 2 million in Cambodia. This Marxism has been tried. The lack of capitalism, having socialism, Marxism has been tried. You get an elite that's telling all the masses what to do. The elite lives very well, but the masses are short on food, they're short on everything, and they don't have the quality of life that we have in America or our capital system. Now, when I was in high school in the 60s, I read this book, Masters of Deceit, by J. Riverman, who was then the head of the FBI. And I understood then that there were communists, Marxists, infiltrating our institutions in our country. They did the labor union, but they were trying to base it on class warfare based on economic. So this is nothing new. This has been going on for decades and decades. It's just now we see the manifestation based on race instead of economics. Now here's a couple important points. This person named Ramsey, they came up with a term called the long march to the institution. They're playing the long game, and they say they don't need to have a kinetic war. What they need to do is get K through 12 generation minds infected with the ideology, and then in higher education, actually started in higher education at Columbia University first. And here's a quote from Ramsey: "Socialism is precisely the religion that must overwhelm Christianity. In the new order, socialism will triumph by first capturing the culture via infiltration of schools, universities, churches, and the media by transforming the consciousness of society." Transforming the consciousness of society. Now, you can't do that with people at our level, because in Christianity we learn we got God. We feel like there's a God. We're answerable to God more than even our country or anything or anybody. And we think for ourselves, and we're individualists. That's the opposite of what the Marxists want. They want the country, the government, to control everything, to control you, and that their elite is going to run the government. And you see this played out with the COVID vaccine. Look at how the blue states handled the COVID problem compared to the red states. So the blue states shut everything down. They did it